And welcome to another edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan as we are getting you ready for Game 4, Stars, Avs. Yesterday, we went behind enemy lines to Colorado. Ryan Kaufman, Extra Sports 1300, gave us a great Avs perspective. Earlier today, we had our NHL and Dallas Stars Spits and Suds insider Sean Shapiro join us from the World Juniors and talking Stars. And right now, it's David Castillo of D Magazine, and his Substack, which is terrific, is called Stars Stack. My man, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really more concerned about how you're doing. That's not at all an inside reference into some of the ongoing struggles that you've had to get this recorded.
Yeah, I mean, it's behind the scenes. It's okay. Pull back the curtain.
No, man, I'm doing good. I'm excited, especially because obviously this podcast today is about the Barrie Colts, right? Dallas Stars prospect, Emil Hemming, and Tristan Bertucci in the playoffs, as well as Brad Gardiner. So that's what we're going to talk about today, right? Not the Dallas Stars. That's not what brings in the hits and the downloads.
Well,
correct?
Everyone that listens to Spits and Suds knows that Castillo's Spittle go back and forth on things, okay? So before we get to the Barrie Colts, I did want to say I got a great tweet the other night as I was popping my first Frosties in a long time. And based on Blackwell's goal, and you know that Spittle is a Blackwell guy, and a tweet came into me and said, Blackwell scores, Stars win, Spittle popping Frosties. The only thing he'd be more happy with is if Utah was in the playoffs. And that's because of you, David Castillo. You know that's because of you, because this narrative I have tried to erase, but you just continue to bring it forward.
I think you need to just accept. I mean, for one, right, recognizing that you have a problem. The Michael Kessel ring.
How did he turn out?
He turned out really well.
Okay. All right.
I think you should run with it. I think it's okay to be a fan of other teams. It might not be the thing that Stars fans want to hear, but if it's the truth, hey, just be real with people.
That's really funny because there was an announcement of a Utah Hockey Club podcast, and they announced the host. I was like, what about me? I started laughing and I thought of you. So you are ingrained. But since you brought it up, before we get into some Stars, this does have to do with the Dallas Stars. You mentioned players on the Barrie Colts and the playoffs. Tell me the latest.
So, I've been covering the Barrie Colts just because there's so many Stars prospects on it, right? We have 3 key Stars prospects on the Barrie Colts, and they're now in the third round, playing Oshawa tonight. I think around 6:30 or 7. And I've always kind of talked about Hemming and Bertucci as really interesting prospects, but prospects that might not have been, kind of more of like B-tier prospects, right? These are long shots to make the NHL. And I think that's still broadly true, but man, they have been on fire in these playoffs. Both are top 25 in OHL scoring, in OHL playoff scoring, I should say. They're both point per game players. Bertucci's offense has really taken like a next step. He's second in defenseman scoring in the OHL right now with 16 points in 12 games. And it's something that I had kind of been trying to monitor throughout the season, which is Hemming started out really, I would say, just poorly, I think by any metric, not just production. But I did feel like he was working on small things, and it's led to a really fantastic second half. And now it's carried over into the playoffs where he had 3 points in his last game versus Kingston. They eliminated them in game 7. And so, man, be excited. I mean, it's not exactly, like Johnston and Stankoven, but, it's not even close. But there is still plenty to be excited about in terms of the future.
Here's why I'm excited, because with the lack of draft capital that the Stars have used, maybe one or two of those players could be dangled, for instance, to get a quality defenseman for next year.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So run that by me again.
Yeah. So absolutely. So this is a June/July David Castillo, Gavin Spittle podcast that I'm fast forwarding to. I really do. I would love to see the Stars find a way to pick up one more quality defenseman. And I know that they don't have a lot of cap room, but at the same time, I just feel as though that would take it to the next level. If you have a healthy Heiskanen, if you have a healthy Harley, you have a Liam Bichsel, but in Esa Lindell, so you have 4 right there. So, I mean, I would love to see another quality defenseman come in the offseason.
I mean, so like in terms of prospects, I mean, I agree. I think in terms of prospects, you're not going to see like anyone like Aaron Manetian, who I think is really good, or Tristan Bertucci, who I think Bertucci could absolutely play on the left side on a bottom pair. But that depends on if, they can find a way to get Liam Bichsel up in the top 4 somehow. I don't know quite how that would work. I think you would have to have maybe 4 left-handed defensemen right in the top 4. Harley,
right.
Heiskanen,
and maybe
Bichsel,
Lundqvist
and
comes back too.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Lundqvist thing is so bizarre to me because it's like, do they do it yet again? Because I feel like at this point, I mean, what are you doing, right? I mean, like if you have Harley, Heiskanen, Lindell, and then you'll obviously still have Dumba and Lyubushkin, Bichsel. Like I guess like he goes on the third. I mean, like they reunite Lindell with Lundqvist. I still think they should find a proper right shot top 4 defender and kind of just listen. It sucks to say, but I don't think Lundqvist is the player that people think he would have turned into the playoffs. Because again, it just goes back to, Dallas, kind of they love their size. That's why Petrovic is playing in the bottom pair over, players like Brendan Smith and Matt Dumba, who's not a small guy, but anyways.
Yeah. No, I probably should have held it for June or July, hopefully after the Stars make a deep cup run or even raise the cup. But let's talk about the present, and let's start with the defensive pairings. Would you like to see, upon a Heiskanen return, Harley and Heiskanen separated with different pairings rather than be together?
So yes and no. I think that's something that you will probably that you could see in the future. It's kind of one of the things that I'm going to try real hard not to spit any hot takes, but I have always wanted to see Harley and Heiskanen on a separate pair. What I would say in defense of that is that Harley, Heiskanen, we know, is legit on their own, and against all odds, like the Lindell and Cody Ceci pair, which I have not been a fan of, and I would say to fans, tap the brakes just a little, but credit where credit is due. They've been really, really good in this series, tasked with a matchup that I think most people thought was just Colorado was just gonna skate all over them,
a free skate,
and yes, and it hasn't happened. So I think that's the kind of thing that you probably want to tinker with, say, if Dallas gets into round 2 and plays Winnipeg, and who knows, right? Because I mean, I think the team that you're looking at as the team to come out of the Pacific right now, I think looks like LA. Vegas is down in the series versus Minnesota. Granted, Minnesota looks really good, and it's I think that's probably Winnipeg is going to really be the series if Dallas makes it that pushes them to kind of maybe experiment more. But I think all that happens is Petrovic comes out of the lineup, Lyubushkin is on the third pair with Bichsel, and that's still a pretty solid defense group.
Yeah, LA is fascinating. I mean, Kempe, wow. He's really...
No. Byfield, wow. That's what you
Yeah. Okay. All right. Byfield, wow. Kopitar, wow. They're really good, especially at home. And they're getting goaltending this year. So that's terrific. Okay. Second Stars point. And I didn't get to this with Sean Shapiro because I was saving it for you. So we get this elite forward, and I think the philosophy is with Mikko Rantanen, if there aren't points on the board, he is underperforming and people are upset. That's what social media, my take is when I read through it. I've actually thought that Mikko Rantanen has done some nice things on the ice, obviously creating that game-winning overtime goal, and the effort was there. But I think he's done some other nice things as far as playing a good two-way game. I wanted to ask you, because you're so good at analytics, what have you seen as far as Mikko Rantanen in this series?
I think the biggest thing, and this is so lame for me to be like, hey, I should be the coach because I mentioned this like, months ago. I'm obviously not doing that. But I think really the biggest thing, something that like I personally kind of thought was a good idea to kind of experiment with in the regular season was the all finished top line with Granlund, Hintz, and Rantanen. And I think that's really kind of helped. However, what I would say is that like I agree. I think Rantanen has done a lot of really good things. I think what part of the reason why people have been a little extra critical is that, well, there was that whole narrative about, oh man, he's such a proven playoff performer,
Right.
Which he is.
He is.
However, he was that on a team that had other proven playoff performers. Like Makar and McKinnon were top 25 in points per game, right? So he was in that situation where, the offense was, he was with a team where offense kind of lent itself to production in the postseason. And I always thought that was kind of a silly expectation because, well, he's not on Colorado. Dallas doesn't have, these kind of jailbreaking type talents that are going to kind of feed him points in the way that McKinnon and Makar were able to do. That's not like, to me, again, that's not a criticism. That's just, I think, just about setting the right expectation. Hintz is the only player over the last, I guess since 2017 or whatnot that is top 25 in points per game in the playoffs. He's 23rd among the top 25, so still really good, but clearly a step below like McKinnon, who I think is like top, or I think it's like fifth. But I think that's kind of the main thing. Like I did not expect Rantanen to post a bunch of points because he's not playing for the same team. And I never appreciated that whole kind of narrative. I realize it's part of why they signed him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still true of Rantanen. Like he still is really good in the playoffs. But I think for the most part, kind of doing the little things, I think on a line that really kind of allows him to, create a little bit more space on the rush with Granlund and Hintz is also huge, which makes it really interesting kind of what'll happen when Robertson returns. So I've really liked his game, I think, because nothing really has changed. Like he's still just a really great forward in terms of, playing off the wall, in terms of creating on the rush, despite not having foot speed. He plays fast despite not being fast. So I've liked Rantanen. Do I think he's been lived up to the contract? Not necessarily. I mean, there's still things, right? The whole like passing to Petrovic for the point shot was, not ideal, but overall, I've liked him. But part of that's because I didn't expect him to be a point per game player in the playoffs.
And to that point, maybe it'll be on Saturday night, but similar to I said before, you have to keep Dodonov in because he's going to get you one. And he did, and it was a big one in game 2, the game tying goal. I really do feel as though Mikael Granlund's going to get me a big goal.
I mean, he's been a pleasant surprise. Like Granlund was not a player. Like I'm not gonna kind of take back what I said in terms of like I did not like the San Jose trade. However, both players are clearly elevating their games, but I always go back to I think the real story for me so far, which is Pete DeBoer and the coaching staff. Because like I've been going through tape and I did some film room analysis about that overtime in game 2 at the Stars stack. And Dallas has kind of really shifted. Not to say they've changed their identity, but they've really shifted from being the best rush attack in hockey which, by the way, they got overtaken by Utah, Gavin's real favorite team, with late in the season, but and shifted to kind of more of a kind of cycle forechecking type strategy, which has basically kind of burned time in Colorado's zone, which has prevented them from their typical kind of speedy breakouts. And there's a lot of other things I've seen. I feel like there's a lot of other tactical work that I'll be writing about at the Star Stack. Again, more shameless plugs.
I love it.
That I think DeBoer has just really done a good, because again, how many people, if Colorado were up in the series without McKinnon and Makar, wouldn't you just say that's an indictment on DeBoer and man, what a great job Bednar's doing. So
absolutely.
with the roles reversed, I feel like you really have to credit the coaching staff, because I think most people, right, had Colorado winning because it was just well, man, Dallas is a really great team, but without their number one defender and number one forward, which I would say Robertson is arguably that, even with Rantanen, because I think Robertson is just a better kind of all around player. In addition to being dangerous offensively, is I think much better defensively than Rantanen. But full marks to DeBoer and the coaching staff. They've just really done a great job, I think, of adjusting to Colorado, which is what makes Game 4 so interesting, because I don't think Bednar is a bad coach. So either he doesn't have an answer for what DeBoer's been doing and they just go out with a whimper, or he does something revolutionary and Colorado maybe takes potential control of the series.
Well, I also think, David, and it's going to be ramped up in the playoffs, but the quality of the physicality that the Stars have implemented, I think, is making a difference. I really do. I felt as though Colorado late in Game 2 was kind of worn down. I felt as though the Stars kind of brought it to Colorado in Game 3. And that's not necessarily the Stars a playbook, but I hope they can keep it up, because I think it's been very effective as far as slowing this Colorado rush down.
I would, man, the physicality thing, I'm kind of two minds. I don't often disagree with you on this front. I think what it did because they really brought it on in Game 2, right? That's when the physicality really kind of ramped up. I think what it did is it just kind of helped them rally around something, right? It was something to kind of that they could sort of make Colorado think about, in addition to kind of the usual offensive attack and forecheck and so forth. So I don't mind it, but I think the real thing to me is that I think, yes, the physicality has helped, but I do think there's also a lot of stuff that Colorado is just not doing well and not adjusting to. So this is, again, full marks to DeBoer and the coaching staff. However, I think you're seeing, Colorado players that just haven't been up to their usual standards. I mean, it's not that I think Colorado is losing the series more than Dallas is winning the series. I absolutely think Dallas has taken over. I mean, the shot, the expected goal share is in their favor. But also McKinnon, hasn't been productive at even strength. Constantly bobbling pucks. Makar has kind of been timid in the face of Dallas's aggressive attack, especially when he's at the point. So I think it's as much about Dallas doing everything just so well, and yes, playing with energy and physicality, but also Colorado just kind of limping along this series. There really is a part of me that just kind of feels like Colorado did not respect Dallas enough and kind of thought, well, we're just, we're going to, not that I think athletes would ever admit this to themselves, but subconsciously, hey, they're injured. They lost 7 games in a row in the regular season. This is going to be a cakewalk. And no, that has not been the case at all.
We're talking with David Castillo. As he mentioned, his Substack is called Star Stack. So as we look ahead to Game 4, David, 2 keys for me, and I guess they're simplistic: stay out of the penalty box, as well as obviously you would love to get a power play goal and go on more power plays. What are your keys?
For me, so I mean, like, okay, hold on. Is it really so bad if Dallas takes penalties if
Yes.
their PK is just going to keep dominating?
I cannot have them against even if Colorado goes 0 for 15, I'm scared of that 16th. Too many good players. McKinnon, Natchez, Makar, Nichushkin, too many good players to give them this many opportunities.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying like, hey, take all the penalties you want. Just that I think that for me, if there is a key in the series, I think it's really just kind of doing what you're already doing, which is, keep cycling the puck, keep sort of, forcing, right? I mean, one of the things that I've seen, and you're right about the power play and the PK, one of the things that Dallas keeps doing that Colorado does not bite on, and I'm not sure why, and this is probably why a lot of Avs fans cannot stand their power play coach right now, which is that Dallas is playing really aggressively. They're giving Colorado the entries on the power play. Like you watch the power play,
yes,
Colorado's entering with ease. However, Dallas doesn't care because they're not sacrificing any high danger shots. And so, for whatever reason, Colorado just refuses to, attack them down low. They're comfortable with trying to create from the perimeter, trying to stay outside and then gradually kind of bring it to the middle or towards the crease. And Dallas is just not playing that game. They're just continuing to attack them aggressively at the point. And so for me, there's just really nothing Dallas can change. I think because there's really nothing they can do better, in my opinion, right? Without Heiskanen, without Robertson, I think they're kind of forced into this really kind of tactical prize fight, which is still close, right? Again, Dallas has had to take 2 overtime games. There's the big stat about they have more wins than minutes spent with a lead, right? So this is still very much a close series. And if Dallas is to win without Robertson and Heiskanen, it's exactly how they need to play, right? Which is just nickel and dime your way to victory and kind of hope that Ottinger remains stable, remains the better goaltender than Blackwood, and win that special teams battle, which feels like a generic kind of keys to victory sort of checklist. But that's what they're doing, man.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. And I feel as though both teams are fighting to get to the middle to put pressure on the opposing goaltender. And I feel as though if the Stars can get in front of Blackwood or cause a little havoc in front of the net, that's a big thing. Can't give him too many clean looks. You look at some of the goals in this series, the Oscar Beck screen, the Jamie Benn high tip. A lot of that stuff's coming right in front of him, but he can't see the puck.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the other thing too that's kind of like worth highlighting when it comes to the series in general, which is that I really loved. It wasn't fun to. I don't think Game 3 was exciting at all. I thought it was quite boring because there were just so many stoppages, right?
Yes.
All the icings. However, I thought it was a great. If it was intentional, it was great tactics, which is that y'all had just the mother of all overtimes in Game 2, which was absolutely brutal and exhausting. And so what do you do for Game 3? You slow it down. And I thought that was a great switch up. I don't know how much that threw Colorado off or if Colorado, it's just like kind of consistent. Dallas kind of defends well. So you're right about the neutral zone, especially, which is that it's just super clogged in the series right now. But I did want to give a shout out to Thomas Harley, which, yeah, sure, we already know how good he is and he's elite and he's basically a #1 defender. But he's done a really great job defending, like specifically. Like, yes, his offense is fantastic. We get that. But defensively, even though I feel like most people kind of respected his defense as something that's not a flaw, I think the series kind of exposed how much it's kind of really turned into an active strength of his. People kind of pointed out and kind of maybe looked at him funny with that 4-on-4 goal that Nichushkin scored. There are no lessons to take when it comes to 4-on-4 like defense. Like it's a very different game state. It's an unusual game state. Yeah. It doesn't happen very often. And I think Duchesne's kind of missed assignment had more to do with that than Harley kind of losing control. People will point out the pick, Brock Nelson's pick. Listen, man, like that never gets called, right? So I think it's usually on the player to kind of play around it. Yeah. even though I don't necessarily like it. But Harley defensively has been absolutely phenomenal, and he's done it well against some of the best forwards in the game, right? McKinnon, Natchez, who has been really kind of awful in this series, if I'm being honest, but like Lehkonen and Nichushkin,
Oh,
like it's just been fantastic work.
Lekkonen's been terrific. You know what's fascinating too is, and this always happens, David, like we highlight the superstars, which we should, but it's always the third and fourth liners in these series that come up big. Like Colorado, there's an argument to be made that their third and fourth line have been their best lines in the first three games.
Yeah, I think that's what I think that's kind of right. That's been the story for them, which is that you've had McKinnon and Lehkonen, and that's pretty much it. And then you have,
Yeah.
Jack Drury and Parker Kelly and Logan O'Connor are just like dominating their minutes, right? So yeah, we got nothing from Brock Nelson until like the 4-on-4 goal. Nothing really from Nichushkin. Again, Nature's been quiet. Charlie Coyle outside of the first game, nothing much going. Jonathan Drouin has been just a complete zero. So yeah, it's been a really interesting series insofar it's kind of like feast or famine when it comes to production. It's either the top line or the fourth line, and that's it.
I know you love Mavrik Bourque, and he's a big part of this future, and I really like Mavrik Bourque as well. Would you reinsert him into this lineup?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, who are you taking out?
You're taking out Oscar Back, and I realize that's probably a hot take for some people. Oscar Back, I think, has played well. For me, it's like I think about what fuels that fourth line. And if I'm being honest, I think really what fuels that fourth line is Sam Steele and Colin Blackwell. I don't really think. I think if Robertson comes back, then yeah, I think Oscar Back and Mavrik Bourque are the odd men out because I think Blackwell, Steele, Donoff, that's a fantastic fourth line if that's what they potentially wanted to do. But yeah, I think, kind of like we saw with like Niels Lundqvist, right? Where, he didn't get minutes in the playoffs and kind of like, we were all just kind of like, well, why? I mean, like, what's so great about, for example, Petrovic? And so for me, it just comes back to if you know this player is a part of your long-term plans, then just give him the experience. Like, I don't think, for one, I think, Mavrik Bourque was really good. Like, I think not really good, but he was good and he was doing what you would expect a young player to do, which was developing. Also, my personal philosophy, I just prefer offense lower in the lineup. I think if you're someone that can provide that, like what we've seen with Blackwell, then that's why you put them in there because, defense is not going to make, I think, as much of a difference with so few minutes. Whereas if you can squeeze a goal or two out from your fourth line,
huge.
that's all the better.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Mavrik Bourque is clearly part of the future. So why not give him the kind of experience that's going to pay dividends down the line by, having these playoff games?
I'm not saying I agree with it. And the fourth line of Colorado, if they were matched up, is not the biggest either. But I think they keep Beck in there because of his size. And that shouldn't be the only reason, because if you go, I was just saying, if you go Steele, Blackwell, Bourque, that's a very small line.
I mean, again, to me, it's like, how well do you leverage it? And I don't want to turn this into like, oh, well, Oscar Beck, needs to be the hell, free Bourque or anything like that. Like I said, I think Bourque's been solid. I'm not complaining about Bourque. I just feel like, or complaining about Back. I just feel like Bourque absolutely kind of deserves a shot here. And for me, like, again, size like counts in however you leverage it, right? You look at someone like Logan Stanley on Winnipeg, super big guy on the bottom pair, and super awful. He doesn't leverage it. Like, he'll throw a hit here and there.
Yeah.
But if he's not managing the puck and he's constantly turning it over, well, then, who really cares? Oscar Beck does not have that problem, obviously, and he's a much better player than Logan Stanley. But I just haven't seen like Oscar Beck really leverage that size. I think it's shown up maybe in the faceoff circle, but he's not throwing big hits. I often see him get out-muscled, if I'm being honest. But like I said, I don't want to turn this into like a Back versus Bourque thing.
No,
I just think Bourque should play in the lineup.
And I'm fascinated to see in the offseason what they do with Blue Mel if they want to re-sign, because somebody is going to give him a shot.
Yes, and he's been the cool thing about Blue Mel, and the reason why I would like to think that Dallas does try to kind of does sign him and then bring him up, is that beyond just like the lack of cap room and the need for players that are cheap, Blumel has turned into a two-way forward at Texas, and that's kind of a big deal, right? Here's a guy that's quick, he can score, but now he's really kind of become a kind of like a discount Yuri Lettinen down there for the Texas Stars.
You are absolutely correct. Definitely wanted to highlight with you our Spits and Suds guy, my friend. Justin Ritzkovian, named the winner of the AHL Dudley Red Garrett Memorial Award Rookie of the Year. How about that?
It's, man, I again, like, I feel so bad. I feel like I'm just nothing but criticism against Dallas Stars players.
You're not gonna, are you really?
No. I'm just gonna say that Ritzkovian's age really kind of gives him an advantage. And listen, we would have the same conversation, right, with the whole like what was the Klingberg Ekblad thing, or when Modano should have won the Calder, but lost to a much older prospect.
But what about Martino? He was just finished college.
Yeah, so Ritzkovian, I think, listen, that's credit to him. I think he's, fantastic young player for Texas. I just, like, if I were thinking about AHL players that I probably thought were better, just pound for pound, he wouldn't necessarily have been my first choice. But credit to him. I mean, am I just being such a Grinch?
Yeah.
Am I just a Grinch?
Yeah, you are, because if he listens and he's going to be like, okay, it's over, no Ritzy and Spitzy podcast anymore.
That sounds like your new show, man.
I know. Robert Tiffin suggested it. So I'm going to go with it. Ritzy and Spitzy. You got the NHLer and you got a guy.
Hey, man, listen, like, the Ritzkovian, I love the guy, and I'm going to stop talking smack about who should have won.
That's what's interesting is his brother just finished his sophomore season at Northeastern and had a heck of a year. He's a point per game performer. So, I just mentioned that because it's fascinating that you see with the Texas Stars, it's a family affair because Giacomo Martino, younger brother of Aridin Martino, has been named a finalist for the USHL's Forward of the Year.
Nice. I'm actually kind of surprised that Dallas didn't go after Justin's brother, who was a free agent this year, right? Yeah. He was a free agent.
I think he's still unsigned.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I think, necessarily that's kind of, I just think Dallas has done a really good job with the NCAA. Again, like, I really loved, and I think we've talked about this before, really loved their signing of Trey Taylor, who was, of course, not just, Martino's teammate for Clarkson, but also, their leading producer on the blue line, right? So, and he's looked really good in Texas, and was playing with Petrovic until he, went up to the NHL.
Yeah, it is great that the prospect pool is getting bigger. You are an absolute beast, my friend. Thank you for taking a few moments of your time. So for those that don't know, fill people in. It's StarStack is your Substack, and people can subscribe to that and get great recaps and analytics and information. But also, you are teaming up with Robert Tiffin for D Magazine on some post-game action.
Yeah, so just kind of the usual rundown, right? So Robert and I are doing, which usually go up right after the game, recaps for D Magazine. Of course, I'm still also doing recaps, what I call stray observations at the Stars Stack. But I know I've said this to my subscribers before, for some idiotic reason. Hey, man, I don't have time to do prospect reports. You know what? That's going to end today, right? So I'll be covering Hemming and Bertucci for the Colts, right? So next week, and just kind of doing more film room analysis. Going to be looking at Dallas's PK and how they've managed to dominate Colorado. So a lot of stuff, right? Not just usual stuff, but like the cool stuff that only the sickos really care about, which is, how's Hemming and Bertucci doing in the AHL? And man, what's Dallas's diamond figuration on the PK doing to Colorado's McKinnon attack? That.
I care. I'll be at USA Sweden tomorrow night. I care.
Nice. And Gavin, you should plug all the awesome work you do as well here on Spits and Suds. I know it's kind of strange, but you do such a great job promoting us. Tell me what websites I can link to constantly on my Substack.
So 1053thefan.com. We're actually doing some really good Stars coverage. We had Eddie Olchuk on, Leah Simakopoulos on, just numerous people talking about Stars. So 1053 The Fan, trying to give our listeners who have asked for it as much Stars coverage as possible. Plus, you can find Spits and Suds wherever your favorite podcasts are found. One note, we are almost at 100 reviews on Apple. So if you get a chance, and if you're liking what David has to say, just mention, I like David Castillo on the show, or I like Robert, or I like Sean, I like the guests, or, that 5-star review carries a lot of weight. So I think it's those. If people can support Spits and Suds and spread the word, we all grow together, my friend.
By the way, also, listen, if you don't like, hey, this guy hates Oscar Beck, like I'm going to leave an awful review with this guy.
No,
five
David.
stars for Gavin.
No, it's 5 stars regardless. Don't give them the idea. I don't want to be getting 1 stars and it's like, hate on Oscar Beck. No, it's 5 stars, right? We're growing this together.
You're going to get 5 stars regardless because you do awesome work, not just with, reaching out to like, myself, Robert, Sean. But man, I really loved your guest list. And I'm curious if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, if you have like any like big guests coming up, besides maybe because you seem to find somebody new all the time. And I think that's great.
Yeah. I'm working on one and I need to put it together. But world championship tennis player John Isner is a massive Stars fan and is so good at talking hockey. So I'm trying to get him on the program.
All right. Well, I will send you my own recommendations.
Yeah. Since you don't like John Isner. Okay.
I don't know who he is.
Oh, God. Just enjoy. Just enjoy. We'll have some more guests on soon. Continue to work on the guest list, David.
Well, man, you do fantastic work. Like I said, I love you, bro, and I'm really, always happy to kind of be here. Especially with Stars fans, because I know they need their fix, but also this is just such a fascinating series, man, and it is really kind of one for the history books.
I agree. And you're a beast as well. So Stars Stack is your Substack, and you can also check out his post-game writing with Robert Tiffin, D Magazine, at David Castillo. Follow him. He's a terrific follow. He's a terrific guy, and he's a big contributor to Spits and Suds. You the man, buddy. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for another edition of Spits and Suds. Always great to have David on the program. We'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, have a great day, everyone.